Good morning. I'm Libby from Quantum, the official sailmaker for the Helly Hansen Sailing World Regatta Series. We've partnered with Sailflow Weather to give you daily forecasts and expert tips to start your day. We'll also have Jeff Thorpe and Doug Stewart on the water with you, taking photos in preparation for some Zoom debriefs that we'll host next week. It's a great opportunity, regardless of the brand on your sail, and I'll put the link to the chat here so you can sign up to be added to the Zoom call for your fleet. The QR code that you find in your skipper's bag also has the same link. And we are offering overnight service at both AYC and our loft very nearby at 1047. Find us if you need us. Take it away, Shea Gibson.
Thank you, Libby. It's Saturday, May the 6th. We're on the second day of the Helly Hansen Sailing World Regatta Series here in the Annapolis area. So one quick thing for speakers today, myself with Scott Nixon. I think we'll have Andrew Waters joining us tomorrow. We had Jason Curry on yesterday, so I got the pleasure of meeting him, and we'll be taking it forward for today. Housekeeping rules: if you do have any comments or feedback, please put that in the chat box. We'll field those after the end of our segment, or if applicable during the segment, we'll definitely address those questions that you have. The big topic today, of course, is going to be current. But first, for a shameless plug for us at Sailflow, if you haven't tried the app, most sailors know about this app, and feel free to give it a free download and a free 2-week trial version of the Pro membership, so you can see all of our sensors in the area. We're going to be using the Holly Point sensor for this race, since it's the closest to the race rings, as you can see here in the picture. Any questions, please email me at the address below, sgibson@weatherflow.com. I'll be happy to answer anything for you related to Sailflow. The agenda today: overview, tidal, currents, and breeze. Of course, with the currents being the main theme here, and I'm just going to stop share for a second and go to Scott. Scott, how did things look yesterday? I know that I called for the current to be right around 2 knots. So we know that the NOAA Tides and Currents product does a historical forecast, and it was showing 1.31 knots. But I knew a little bit better, especially with the dam release, the Conowingo Dam, that the current was going to be much stronger, especially down the middle, without even a turn on the edges, right? So pretty strong today. How was it yesterday? How did that pan out on the course?
Yeah, I think the NOAA time seemed pretty good, and obviously with full moon and everything going on, all the rain, obviously the ebb was really strong. That was our biggest feature on the race course. We were out Division 3 out towards Thomas Point with the J105s, J70s, and J80s, and yeah, current was a huge factor. It was for us coming from Charleston Waitrich a few weeks ago. It was flashbacks to there. It was solid 2 knots most of the day, and even our fourth race it backed off a little bit, but where our weather mark was set out towards the Baltimore Channel is probably no less than a knot and a quarter.
Right. Yeah. So that just taking the visual in, where that current's just ripping 2 knots right down the middle. Even along the sides, you're still at about 1 knot during peak values. So today, looking at the slide deck here, the tide information, our max ebb is going to be right around 12:25 p.m. But we know that that's going to probably start 45 minutes early and continue for about 45 minutes after that point with that max ebb. So make sure that you're aware of that going forward, especially out in those inner race rings right down the center of the shipping channel. Scott, were there any hazards out there yesterday? Any ships, anything moored on the water, anything to be aware of?
No, not too much activity out there today. The great thing for us, when everybody comes to bay, we're like, just watch the ships. We had 5 ships anchored out towards the eastern shore over towards the Baltimore Channel, and they're just a great indicator. They swing with the current. So they were showing max ebb. The ebb runs north-south in the bay, so they were streaming south all day long. So it's a pretty good check-in to be able to see the current there, and obviously a couple crab pots around. I think the smaller divisions, the divisions, closer to the Severn River, they sail in 10, 15 feet. There's a lot of crab pots in the area. They're a great check-in. Not so much commercial traffic yesterday, but today, for the people that aren't locals, today's the opening day of striped bass rockfish season. So there's going to be a fishing tournament out there, and lots of guys out there trolling. And when they troll, a spread of 4 to 8, 10 lines behind them, probably 200, 300 yards behind the boat. So give them room if you see them out there.
Great. Thanks for that tidbit. Yeah, a lot of activity ongoing up that way this weekend. So at least the weather is going to be nice. We'll go ahead and start looking at the forecast for today. I'm seeing a little bit of fog bleeding through. You can see some of the fog in the valleys of the mountains up in the Appalachians, and then filtering down across the upper Chesapeake Bay area. It looks like a little bit of surface fog, maybe radiational fog from that northerly wind trying to work through the area. You may see a little bit out there. Otherwise, mostly sunny skies are expected for today with high temperatures right in the upper 60s to possible low 70s. The water's a little cool up there, so probably keep these temperatures right in line. This is basically just kind of an overall rendition of the air temperature. Of course, it'll vary over the water. And right now we have winds veering from the northwest over towards the north at about 343 degrees, and we have 4 knots gusting to 5. And so this is going to be the theme for today, with the wind veering, slowly veering. We're going to end up with a very light period of winds at some point where the numbers will probably tank as the winds transition over. So what's driving that is high pressure that is over the area. Let me back up here on the surface map. And we can see, we talked about this yesterday, how this high pressure in Canada is driving a ridge axis all the way out into the Atlantic. So these high pressure nodes, we have one up in the Appalachian Mountains that is filtering down that northerly wind. Then we end up with a southern lobe, which tries to migrate out over the Atlantic Ocean very slowly. But what happens is, as that center of high pressure expands south and east, we end up with very light and variable winds during that, right? So right under the center of high pressure, and that's what's going to be happening today. Tomorrow's outlook looks better because that high ends up off the coast more. That's what we want. You can see here by this afternoon with that high pressure moving out. Even Windy is definitely looking at this as well. I think they're both reading off the same model, the GFS for that WPC model and Windy. You can see the timeline where that ridge comes out off the coast, and that's where the transition is going to occur. So this is at 2:00 p.m., but this transition will happen a little bit earlier. The problem is that center high pressure is going to be moving right over the Chesapeake and then out off the coast. So heat fluxing through the day with the sunshine, this may drive the high off the coast a little sooner. So hopefully we get that southerly return flow coming up the bay around it. And that's what we want. We want that southerly wind to turn as soon as possible. My only concern is the timing of that. It's going to be really iffy right around the race start. You can see here when we run all the models that the high resolution, the low resolution, the medium, all of them are all hinting at 1 to 5 knots, maybe even zeroing out according to the HRRR right around 11:00 a.m., right around the time of the race starts. So, Scott, that's going to be something that the race committee has to decide on if they want to bump it back an hour to wait for these southerly winds to fill in. That's definitely a call for you guys and for everybody on the committee to make. But looks like that light and variable period is going to be around until about 12 or 1 o'clock when we get that southerly return flow. Then we start coming up into the 4 to 8 knot ranges and possibly 5 to 9. I don't see us getting up towards the 10, 11 knot ranges until maybe late afternoon. That sea breeze fills in. So that's going to be the call for today. Any questions about that, Scott? Anything to apply for the course on these light winds and that heavy current?
No, just curious where the gradient was. Yesterday, the gradient was a little further left, and then, kind of breeze bounced back and forth between the clearing skies. It wanted to go a little bit right towards the east more, and then when the clouds came through, it bounced back to the gradient on the left. What's the gradient doing today?
Yeah, so as let me pull up draw tool here, see if I can get this thing a little glitchy this morning. When the winds start to veer north in the northeast, you're going to have a little bit more pressure left on the left side. And then as winds veer east and then southeast over to south, you may start to feel that pressure if we get to the south, start to pull to the right.
Okay.
It may have a little bit of a westerly element in it by 2 o'clock. You may see, I wouldn't be surprised to see south-southwest winds based on where that high is.
Wow.
We just want to get those numbers up, to at least the 5 to 9 knot ranges at the very least. We need that. But yeah, those winds could go a little further past 180 degrees and may lock in about 160, 170 for a bit and then go 180. And that's really what I'm hoping for. The sooner the better, right? So you can see here the NAM 3 has it going south-southwest by 12:00 p.m. So that's why I'm hedging on the forecast for that direction, because it's very possible based on where that high will go, the ridge setup. More sunshine, the better. In this kind of situation, you want that coastal ridge to develop sooner than later. The sunshine definitely helps. It helps. If it were really cloudy over the area, then it may have a problem. It may be really light all day long with tanking.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so that's the outlook. If we look at currents, now our high resolution model picks up on this pretty well, where we get up to 1.7 knots plus. Now the legend doesn't go above that, but we know looking at the Conowinga Dam, yesterday we were about 120,000 cubic feet per second. Now it's gone down and bumped up. They're just doing, it looks like intermittent releases of water based on the extensive rainfalls that occurred last week with that upper low over Michigan. or the Great Lakes, and then all that rain in the watershed. So now the height was up at 20 feet. Now it's dropping down. It's starting to normalize a little bit, but there's still a high level of discharge at about 140,000 cubic feet per second. So that's going to add to the current. That's what we talked about yesterday. So that's going to be the huge theme. Again, we keep talking about it, but in light winds with a heavy current, it's going to make a big, it's, really going to have huge impacts out there on the course. As far as tomorrow, take a quick look at Sunday. Things look a little more optimistic, where that high pressure really setting up offshore going to Sunday. And you see the high a little bit more down over the Carolinas. That brings the southerly flow up into the bay a little bit stronger. And as we go through the day, that high, we want that high to go a little farther east. More and more, it sends that southerly flow up the coast, and looks like we get a little bit of troughing over here to our west. You can kind of see short waving moving in with what looks like to be warm front activity. And what that does is it provides a little bit of low level jetting. You can see here ahead of it, almost like a cold front. So as this slides east, these southerly winds will fill in south or even south-southwest winds, maybe to about 190 to 210. I wouldn't go 210 all the way for southwest, but it's going to be favorable for a better setup for winds tomorrow. So that's a little bit of optimism within the wind field for the forecast for today, Scott. So I think that's a wrap. I don't have anything else to really add to it other than just be ready for light winds at the start, slowly veering coming up from the south or even a little past 180 to 190, and bumping up 5 to 9 knots around 1-2 o'clock p.m. I think that's the best we can get out of it today. I'd be surprised to see even 9 knots, given the criteria until after about 3 or 4 o'clock. So hopefully everybody can make it work. Any final comments or thoughts here?
No, I think with your forecast, we do need the wind speed to be upright, because the ebb's going to be smoking today. So it's a tough one with current against wind, and the race committee will have a challenging time getting the starting line set up with guys getting pushed over the line pretty easily with the southerly.
Okay, I'll try to sacrifice a lamb or two for you guys and make it happen today. So,
maybe 2 today.
I know, right? Well, everybody, enjoy yourself out there today. Sail safe. And use the current to your best advantage out there, and have a good time no matter what. So enjoy it, especially with all the fishermen and all the partying. I can only imagine what tonight's going to be. So we'll see you back. We'll see you half back tomorrow morning. Either way, have fun, Scott. Y'all take care.
Thanks, Shea. Have a great day.